Okay, everyone, and welcome back. I'm joined today by Ryonix, otherwise known as just an Aussie Yuri.
G'day everyone, my name is Ryonix.
So, let's go.
When we get there, a couple comes in after us, causing Misha to jump slightly at the noise. Seeing that it isn't Shizune, she relaxes again, smiling almost as usual to order a parfait from Yuko, and sliding into the nearest booth. You ran off too fast. You could have at least waited to see what she was going to say. Misha's angry reaction tells me it could be that she was afraid of what Shizune might say.
Why are you both doing this, Ichan?
Because Shizune still wants to be your friend. I guess that for her it's kind of like launching a nuclear missile from a submarine. You need 2 keys to do it. What else can she do, though? She isn't automatically signing whatever she hears or says anymore, and I'm sure that is the reason Shizune's been having so much trouble with her. If she tried to just talk it over, you wouldn't listen. Misha's guilty expression tells me I've hit the mark. Do you really hate Shizune that much?
Oh, this is gonna stink. No, Ichan. I told you that.
She answers without even flinching, idly playing with a spoon. Yeah, I know. I'm sure she knows it too, but I wonder if it might be easier if you did. The only thing she's really thought about for the last week is how to make you happy, since Shizune is still attached to you. Yesterday, though, she thought that maybe it would be easiest for you if you just hated her. Since you didn't tell her you hate her, Shizune thinks that you can both still be friends. She's like that, only thinking in extremes. Her parfait is starting to melt, the ingredients coming together in tiny rivers that remind me of the growing roots of a tree being shown the time-lapse photography.
That's stupid. Shijin isn't that stupid, Ichan. Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous! It's got nothing to do with intelligence. Smart people can do stupid things. And anyway, isn't it true? I was terrified last week when we talked, but at the end I was relieved because it sounded like things might go back to normal. I wasn't expecting you two to have a fight right after.
It wasn't a fight, Ichan. It was just me yelling at her.
The fact that these two can have this conversation without bringing the fact that they both had sex with each other despite his not being in a relationship, it's amazing to me. That would be like top of the list shit to talk about.
Some people...
I know, but especially if you're trying to become friends with the person that you cheated on as well, that's...
It can be hard. It can be hard.
Of course it's hard! That's why you shouldn't do it! I've noticed that Misha's voice never really changes in tone, just volume. It's so low with guilt that I can hardly believe it came from her. Either way, I was happy, because I thought you and her could still be friends, since she needs you. Popular opinion, but not having sex until marriage solves so many problems. It does, but not everyone has the mental fortitude to be able to accomplish that. I can name one person specifically.
Jesus Christ.
It's me. Got him.
No, she doesn't, Ichan.
So, how do you know that? There's a lot of things Shizune doesn't. Vocalize, say, talk about. I'm afraid if I say the wrong thing, it'll ruin the mood. I get to finally have a conversation with her and don't want to screw it up. Wonder if this is the first time she's had an honest conversation with me. Just because she didn't tell you doesn't mean she doesn't like you.
That doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does. Otherwise, she would argue back. You don't think so? She picks fights with everyone, so why not you? Obviously because you're her friend and she values you, and Shizune is hurt too. She's just awful at showing her feelings. Usually does it the wrong way too, but she still likes you.
Hey, Chan. Do you remember when I said I didn't want to hate Shi-chan or upset her? Truth is, I ended up doing both. But it's like there's, like, an awkwardness between us. It's hard to explain.
Both of you are so stubborn. You were talking about how you didn't want to drift apart from Shizune, but then you're going to let it happen.
That's pretty much what he was saying, Nick.
It's fine. They're just memeing around. It's fine. And Shizune is just as bad. She wants to be your friend, but respects you too much to be as aggressive as she'd be with anyone else. Besides, even if your plan is to wait for marriage, if you're willing to cheat on your partner, then you're not willing to wait until marriage.
Right. Like, that just throws all sorts of monkey wrenches in, like, literally fucking everything.
Quite literally, yes. And I'm sure that Misha interprets Shizune giving her space as a lack of caring.
I screwed up already, Chan. It'll happen again. I'm sure. When I think about it that way, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It feels like either way I'll end up making things worse. Then it might be better if I didn't do anything at all, right?
Don't be ridiculous. Why would you even think that way in the first place? Be more positive. It should be easy for you, I want to say, but that would be presumptuous.
Hey, Chan. I never knew you were so optimistic. Never expected it.
Gee, Doc, I just told her to be more positive and suddenly she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
What do we need therapy for?
You always act so gloomy when I try to surprise you.
No, this is a recent thing. Really, I just hate it when people give up easily now.
Now, huh?
It makes me mad when people give up. I used to think that giving up was kind of like running away, since that's how people always describe it. But now that I think about it, it's usually more like throwing something away. When you run away from something, you can think of it as still being there. So, I was in the hospital, and I didn't just want to run away from my problems. I wanted to never think about them again.
Curbs, thanks for the host.
Hey. Misha eats a spoonful of a grey ice cream goo. Did she only just remember it was there now, or could it be she likes it that way? Anyway, my point is you can't do that. People are too sentimental to just throw their memories out like that. It's impossible. Shizune can't think of life in terms of anything but winning and losing. Don't you think she wishes she didn't have to remember the parts where she loses? You can't pick and choose, though. It's like wanting to live in a bubble. The worst part is your way of thinking is so wasteful. It makes you so pessimistic. You're afraid of everything. Come on. I grab her hand as I wave Yuko over with the other to pay for our food.
Where are we going now?
Back to school before lunch is over. But I want to check out a few places before then. Although I start feeling tired even after doing what could be described as on the level of a brisk jog at best, Misha and I eventually make it to the gate of the school with a little over 10 minutes to spare. I didn't even want to really come to this school, you know. I didn't have a choice. When I got to this gate, I'm sure part of me was thinking, what a depressing place. It doesn't look depressing at all, though. Well, I still thought I had everything figured out. I felt practically like another person. If I could, I'd go back and tell myself to stop thinking he can write everything off at a glance and acting like his life is already over, and he can never have fun again. And see, this is one of the great things about this story. It's one of the things I love about it so much.
Yeah.
Is that it starts off with a guy thinking that his life is over because of a huge event in his life.
Right.
And then he finds happiness. The school grounds are still littered with quite a few people. It's lunchtime, so it's typical. This is where you and Shizune had me helping you put together 2 festivals. What a lot of hard work, I thought. I don't have time for this. When I looked back on it, though, I didn't do all that much. I also didn't have anything better to do. I'd have just spent the time alone. I drag her to our homeroom next, which is empty except for Muto trying to eat a sandwich before classes resume. Every time I thought of either of you, I wished you would leave me alone, whether it was here or... Leaving Muto to his lunch, we head for the nearby vending machine, and I grab a soda while I still have 5 minutes to drink it. I spent an entire lunch period with Misha, longer than both Shizune and I had managed to find to talk to her in days. Following me to the cafeteria or trying to corner me after half my classes. I never realized we only talked like 4 times. It really was all in my head. I only barely realized it now.
I remember that, Hee-chan, but I know where all of these places are too.
Wait, let me finish my guided tour, since we're running out of time. By the way, do you want a soda? Making our way to the stairwell. Okay, glad that happened. I'm glad that I don't have to pull her by the hand anymore. You get dizzy on stairs, right?
Yeah.
I guess just here is good enough then. I lean against the wall as Misha sits down on the steps across from me. Do you ever miss the people you went to school with in elementary school or middle school?
No.
That was fast. She didn't even have to think about it. I find myself cringing reflexively. I had more friends in my old school, but I don't talk to them anymore. It almost feels like there was another lifetime ago, which is sad, really. Sometimes I want to talk to them again, but I know I can't. I'm scared and embarrassed, things like that. They're too far away for me to go see them. And I think about calling them, but I don't know most of their numbers. And I left on a sour note, so why would they want to see me again? Feels like I should just forget about it, but I still think about it anyway and regret that I didn't try harder to stay in touch somehow. And I start to think that maybe feeling like I should forget about it is wrong. It would be an insult to all those people I had fun with and a waste of all the good times. Like I said before, even if there are some bad times too, it's alright if you can look back on them as happy memories. But I didn't even think about it then, so it was like I woke up one day and realized I had no friends. I just let myself lose all my friends and it felt awful. I'd really hate it if you and Shizune ended up the same way. That's all.
That's all.
It makes me sad to think that you'll do the same thing and push away your friend. Especially because you're not far away from Shizune. I mean, you even live in the same dorm.
Friend. Aren't you my friend too, Hee-chan?
Yeah. You slept through all of it, but the fireworks were really nice way back at the festival. My first time seeing fireworks like that. And my first time really seeing the sky in a while. And I never really looked at the stars before then either. I had thumbed through a book about them while I was in the hospital though, and learned a lot. Like that stars aren't just burning, they're more like a constant chain of explosions. So far away that some of the stars I'd be seeing would have burnt out for thousands of years already. It's that their light would only just then be reaching Earth. I saw a mock-up comparing the size of the planet to our sun, and then that to other suns. Japan wasn't even visible on the tiny Earth in that book. You know what I'd never realized? She looks at me expectantly. They're amazingly shiny. It's true.
Why are you doing this, Hee-chan?
Doing what?
I'm not stupid.
I don't know. A bunch of reasons. Because you're Shizune's friend, and I liked how close you were, and maybe I'm trying to tell you that we all have our low points, but giving up is stupid. Anyway, it seems worth the trouble.
That's the only reason?
I gave you like 5, and you're my friend.
That's it?
Jesus, can't I do something for no reason?
You can, but I want to know.
Well, what else do you want to hear? The bell rings before Misha can reply, so she ends up laughing instead. Oh, okay, that's a fucking jarring end to the day. The next day, Misha is back in class, although still looking pretty sullen. Not that I was expecting her to magically feel better. That would be asking the impossible considering what happened. At the time, it's Shizune who's out. At first, it almost makes me laugh that suddenly whenever one is in class, the other isn't. Thinking about it, there's nothing funny at all about it. In fact, I find it hard to concentrate on my work because of it. It could be that she's just sick, or she could simply be skipping class. It could also be something more serious, and I'm tempted to ask Misha if she knows, but I end up doing nothing. I don't regret stepping in yesterday, scared that Misha would do something rash. But now I feel like I should have given her some space. Eventually the bell rings and Misha gets up for lunch along with everyone else. I decide to eat lunch in an empty classroom today, just not this one. Unfortunately, a lot of other students seem to have the same idea, so there aren't a whole lot of empty classrooms to go around. Finally, as I'm about to give up on the idea, I find a dark one at the end of the hall.
Whoa!
On turning the lights on, however, I find out that this one isn't empty either. Lily's head turns in my direction, which freaks me out before I realize she probably heard me flipping the light switch.
Boy.
Oh, fun.
Hello.
Hey, Lily. I didn't think anyone else would be here.
Is that you, Ishao?
Yeah, but you probably knew that already. I turn to leave, which prompts Lily to quickly speak up.
You don't have to leave so quickly. We can have lunch in the same room. As a matter of fact, I would prefer to eat with someone else.
I'm about to ask her how she knew I was here to eat lunch, but brush it aside. It's just simple common sense, and I don't want to seem too easily impressed. God, that would be horrible.
Right?
I take a seat at the desk in front of Lily. After reversing it to face hers, I've heard that our minds fill in a lot of what we see based on how we remember seeing it once before, or our expectations. Mostly for efficiency, so as to not have to process everything you look at individually.
What is wrong with you, Nick?
She'll be able to tell that it's a penny and not someone stepping, and then she'd hear your footsteps.
Oh, goodness. Nick, you're a riot.
Lily never seems to stop to question any noise. Bet she did only a few seconds ago, but so I wonder, is it because her mind is filling in context every time, or does she not care and just sort of accept things as they fall into place? On her desk there are just a few cookies and a thermos of tea. She must be one of those light lunch types. I bite into my sandwich. Some of the ingredients spill out the back end.
I agree, Artie. We haven't spoken in a long time. I'm surprised that you still remember my name.
Hmm?
It must be very busy in the student council.
It's different every week. Some weeks are pretty slow, some weeks I consider taking a sick day. Hold on, Lily. I need a second to catch my breath from inhaling that second sandwich.
And how has it been lately?
Unpredictable.
Hello, Bun Bun.
I snap my fingers, which, from her facial expression, upsets her a lot.
Oh no. I think that you've been hanging out around those two too much.
I guess it is one of Shizune's trademarks. Personally, I like it.
Almost like a clap. I ignore it.
Her tone doesn't change even slightly, but Lily's mood has obviously dipped. Doesn't seem like it would be easy to. I've been trying to figure out how she can make it so loud, but I think I'm damaging my knuckles.
Even if it were loud enough to break the windows, I would ignore it. I'm not a trained seal. I have that luxury.
Are you still mad about that? I asked the question as carefully and diplomatically as possible, although in the end I'm only asking to satisfy my curiosity.
No, of course not. Although I don't like Shizune. We were in the student council together for a brief time.
I heard.
I wish you hadn't been so quick to join. I don't like the way Shizune runs the student council. Did you know that she scared off most of the old members? That is why I think she tries to surround herself with people who won't oppose her. And they don't. It's like a dependency bubble.
I'm sure that Shizune is aware of what Lily is saying. After all, I can remember her specifically denying it a couple of times, which I'd always thought was strange. They say that the more specific a denial is, the more likely it is that the allegations are true. In this case, I think I disagree. Shizune is the one subject in which her opinion could be called less than objective. Did you tell her that?
Oh, very often.
Lily stops to polish off the last of her tea. I'm running behind on finishing my own lunch and take advantage of the pause to eat as much as possible.
All of her friends are related to the student council, like Misha. I heard things are touchy between her and Misha. They have a fight.
Not really.
Is that so? Either way, there's no point in attempting to force them to make up. Always try to confront everything head-on is what Shizune would do. But it doesn't work in the real world. At some point, it's just being stubborn. Not bravery or good intentions.
That's a little general, don't you think?
I suppose. What do you think is the best to have with tea? Cookies or scones? I like them both in different ways. Couldn't possibly choose. I don't like people who constantly force me to pick sides or want to turn everything into a contest. When I joined the Students' Council, I thought it would just mean helping everything run smoothly, helping people out, like being the class representative. Instead, every day consisted of having Shizune stomp around using Misha like a megaphone to talk about how we had to outdo the last student council and create more and more events and make them increasingly larger.
But then the two of you basically want the same thing. All that stuff makes things exciting. I didn't really get it at first, but it's not some ego project. People like fireworks and soba huts, candied apples and dress-up days, or whatever. The more the student council does, the more responsibility the school gives us. It means extra work, but in a way, it also means more freedom. You have the pull to do things like organize a big festival, and they'll think you're capable enough to handle it instead of just rejecting it instantly. Anyway, I want that too now. It's got its share of pointless busy work, but there are moments that make it worth it when everything comes together. It gives me something to do. If I were to just go to school day in, day out, I think I'd explode.
I think Yamaku is much more easygoing than other schools.
Yamaku isn't other schools, though. That's kind of the point she's trying to make. I start slipping into another familiar mentality. In some ways, it's almost too easygoing. And if I were a different person, I'm sure that I would find how easygoing it was to be stifling. Though in any other school, such easiness would just be the normal flow of life. But here the uneventfulness would be compounded. It would feel different, because I'm not a normal person after all. I'd be reminded of it every time I heard the blood beating in my temples. I'd feel patronized and weak, and my bitterness would only grow. Yeah, sure. The point is, I think I understand what it's all about now. You're really giving Shizune too much of a hard time.
That might be true, but when it comes to how she treats individual people, she doesn't do very well.
Unfortunately, that one is a little harder to argue.
Do you have the time? I like to go to class 10 minutes before the bell.
Then you're right on time if you go now. Excusing herself, Lily leaves, and I sit listening to the clicking of her cane on the floor fading into the mumble of other students having conversations in the other classrooms and in the hall. I feel exhausted and completely forget what I wanted to talk to Shizune today.
That was some nice quality Lily time. I need to spend more time with Lonesome.
You're fine.
Really?
After classes the next day, I instantly head towards the student council room to talk to Shizune. Even though she's in class, trying to cut her off and have a conversation with her near the doorway or out in the hall could be a little obstructive. Better to try and meet her up with her at the student council room. I take my time heading there, getting a juice from the vending machine on the way. I also go over what I want to say to her in my head. It's nothing too important, only a few questions about upcoming events. The door is unlocked when I get there. I think the room was empty too if I couldn't see Shizune's bag perched on her desk. With the top of her head peeking from behind it, it looks as though she's built herself a little fort.
It's that music again.
I don't hear any of the music, so...
Right, you don't.
Shizune gives a wave from behind her bag before picking it up with a finger and moving it out of the way. But after that, she immediately goes back to tapping her pen against the desk and staring into a checklist as if it held the meaning of life itself in it.
What do you need?
I wanted to see if there was anything I could help with, like all that over there. What are those? Or, you could just talk to your girlfriend like a normal person, but hey. I point to the medium-sized stack of folders beside her, but she waves her hand dismissively.
Yeah, that song, kinda. I can handle it myself.
And what about the elections? Also, where's Misha?
It's going okay. I told Misha that I was going to handle everything myself. Later,
Why? Shizune spins a pen in her hand slowly, working it between each of her fingers, like a needle through a patch of cloth.
No,
Hi, Fred.
No reason.
Really?
No reason.
She signs it again for emphasis, to shut down the notion that there's anything more behind it. But there is, since she's definitely not acting normally. What's with the silent treatment is the phrase that immediately springs to mind. Even though it is hardly the time for humor, it does describe how I feel. We can't communicate normally, so I appreciate the few ways we can. To be shut out like this hurts. It's obvious that whatever her reasons, it's going to be pretty much impossible to talk to Shizune today. Beyond just being stubborn, she seems depressed. But with the way our conversation is going already, I don't see myself being able to find out what she's depressed about.
Okay, so we will finish the bad ending today, and then next stream we'll do the good ending.
Awesome. Somehow that only makes me want to find out more, and that means I have to ask Misha. The problem is, I don't really know where Misha goes in her spare time. After asking way more people than I should if they noticed a girl with bright pink hair around, and getting way more negative answers than I expected, I finally find a couple who have seen her.
Already.
Dude, have you played that ending? It is so sad. By the time I reached reached the cafeteria where Misha had apparently been this entire time. I've been around the whole school twice, and I'm very tired. I realize I've passed by her before and just didn't see her behind a pillar. Why are you better at finding me than I am at finding you?
You were looking for me, Hee-chan? Who knows? I guess just a coincidence.
The whole point of coincidences is that they aren't consistent. Are you having a really late lunch?
I didn't get to eat at lunchtime, so yeah. But not too much, so I can still have dinner. Did you want to talk to me about something, Hee-chan?
I don't waste any time. Yeah, the reason I'm here. Did you notice Shizune has been kind of moody today?
I wanted to ask you the same thing, Hee-chan. Well, except she's been this way for a couple days now.
I see.
Hee-chan, do you think it's because of something I did? You think I got upset at Shi-chan like last time?
No, she seems angrier at me anyway. I'm not lying. I really don't. Unfortunately, my attempts to assure her of that don't seem to be going so well. In her own way, Misha's pretty stubborn too. Fine. Eventually, I just head back to my dorm. The last few days have been nothing but a continuously frustrating experience, and they left me drained. I feel tired enough that I decide to take a nap, hoping that maybe I'll figure things out in my sleep. When I wake up, I feel more refreshed, but still without clarity. The only thing that has changed is that it's dark outside. From opening the window a little, I can tell the weather is still kind of nice. After dry swallowing my nighttime pills, I take a little walk to the vending machines. They're out of everything I normally get, so I mash my hand against the buttons until something pops out. The lights are off in the main building, including the student council room. Just an offhand observation. As I'm thinking to myself, I hear a rustling behind me. I've seen this movie before, and that is a very ominous sound to hear. Alone at night.
I knew it! I fucking
Oh my
knew
God.
it! I fucking knew it!
Luckily, it's just Kenji, the Texas assassin, and he wanders out of the bushes in an unusually cheery mood.
Oh no. Okay. Hey!
What the hell? Do you just creep up on people at night and casually go, hey, a lot?
No.
God damn it, Potter!
To be weird. I knew it was you. I have extremely good night vision. Okay, Kenji. I just, okay. Maybe it's because I'm superhuman.
He's like those kids that go, I can see in the dark, you know. What are you doing here, then?
I could ask you the same thing. What are you doing here?
I considered just telling him the truth, but quickly decide against it. It would take too long to explain. Howling at the moon.
I do that too sometimes. The moon isn't out tonight, though.
I barely even hear him, feeling a bit resentful at the interruption. I lied to Shizune through my teeth that nothing was wrong. Or, to be more exact, I lied through my hands. And at the exact same time, I was carrying on an entirely different conversation with Misha. That conversation, understandably, could upset Shizune, but there was no way that she could have heard it. Even Misha's hands, usually signing all her thoughts, were completely still. Even if they weren't, I was standing in front of her, blocking them from Shizune's view. The only way that Shizune could listen in on that conversation would be if she could read lips. Pretty much the first thing I'd asked about when taking sign language was about lip reading, just out of curiosity. It's not easy, nor is it perfect, so I'd never considered it until now. It would make sense, and the room for misunderstandings while reading lips wouldn't help.
So, I realized that I could use the cover of darkness to buy milk. Usually, I only go out when it's raining, or I could trap myself in a sea of bikers or tourists. This is much more consistent. I'm spending too much money on milk now, though. You seem kind of mopey or out of it or something. Don't think too hard. A man has to be all about action. You can think about stuff all day, but changing the situation around by doing something is the best way. I do things all the time without thinking about it. That's why in middle school, they called me Causes Many Problems. I thought it was cool. Sounds like an Indian name.
I'm not really in the mood.
Having a bad day?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of distracted right now.
No.
So distracted that it doesn't hit me until he leaves that his was actually kind of sound advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shizune would have given me the same suggestion. By then, it's too late to think it properly. Politely. I already responded in the rudest possible tone. I just feel like an ass. In retrospect, these past few days I've regretted every action I've taken. The worst part is that I haven't taken the time to stew over them, and in doing so, learn from them. This only has led to more regrets. Alright, so supposedly this should be the final scene of the bad ending.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Well, I'm spooked.
The next morning, as I'm getting dressed, I hear a knock at my door. Quickly putting on the rest of my clothes, I open it, without really stopping to think about who could be behind it. Turns out to be Shizune.
Misha told me that you were looking for me.
I'm a bit hurt that I don't even get a good morning, but it's not too big a deal. I was.
But you found me yesterday.
Shizune's fingers trace a crack in the wall. Seems like she's trying her best to look distant.
Well, I didn't make it easy, did I?
It's alright.
That's why I'm here. We can talk today. Although, I kind of want to go somewhere else.
What about class?
It's fine. It's fine. How about we take a walk around the school? Everywhere except the main building is going to be deserted. First period bell should be ringing right now.
I take a quick glance at my watch and see that she's right. Okay. Is there something wrong?
Why do you think there's something wrong?
Because you're obviously upset. I could just tell. It's what I wanted to talk to you about. Shizune quickly cracks her knuckles while I sign to her.
Apparently, I'm easier to read than I thought. I was trying hard to hide it. Can you tell what I'm thinking right now?
I don't respond, and Shizune heads towards the door, slowly enough that I can tell she wants me to follow her. Her hands are folded behind her back, which is arched against them as though she's about to bend over backwards at any second. Outside, I see Shizune is right. The school is completely deserted. Although it's not my first time seeing the school like this, it's kind of eerie. Shizune acts almost as though I'm not there, browsing a vending machine and taking a slow and winding path until we end up behind the main building. Finally, she leans against a wall and faces me, but it's like I've forgotten how to start a conversation.
There is a saying. You don't know how much you've screwed up until you screw up.
Who says that?
I guess it's me.
Reconsidering her train of thought, she waves her hands in frustration.
Okay, I'll put it differently. When I was younger, we had to make posters for Earth Day in school. There was another girl in my class whom everyone considered the best artist. It wasn't because she could draw better than everyone else. It was how much she could fit into a single picture. I wanted to be better than her, so I made countless posters until I ended up with the best possible one. I had to be the best, have the greatest one. In the end, everyone liked my poster the most of all, even the teacher. A week later, it was meaningless. I threw it in the trash. I think I've told you something like this before.
Yeah.
When I feel like I'm finished, I wish I could just wipe the slate clean. Whether
You alright?
Yeah. Whether I succeed or not, I put Misha through a lot. And I even dragged you into it. And every point where I could have solved this silly situation, or prevented it from happening in the first place, keeps coming back to me. It's the worst feeling, especially when I feel like I've done nothing right and everything wrong. Like recently, it's the worst kind of failure. I feel like a failure on every level. I wish I could wipe away everything I've done, just be alone. Since all I've done is mess with Misha for 2 years, and jerk you around for a year for selfish reasons.
It's fine.
No, it's not. You don't understand. I was just thinking about it. Everything I do feels like I have to beat someone else. Everyone else even. If that is how it is, then what are my relationships with people? I almost feel the same.
I can see where this is going.
The point is, I've messed up so many people being selfish. And now, I want to be away from other people for a while.
Even me? There's a pause.
Yes.
Followed by an even longer pause. This time from me. I see. That's the most selfish thing you could do. It's just you making another decision by yourself. For a minute, it looks as though she's considering the best way to respond, but in the end, she simply nods, which I think is the best way to respond anyway. It's very like her to be roundabout even now, but ultimately without excuses. All my emotions simmer inside me. I see a kettle in front of me, water rolling inside it, so close that I can touch it and feel the heat radiating off of it. I'm glad for the distraction, because I know there's no recourse or bargaining possible.
You told me that everything was fine. But it wasn't true, was it? I can't believe it ever again then.
All right. Not even bothering to sign it, I stand up. My hands are in my pockets, fingering my loose change. The morning air is cold against my face. As I look back at her, she seems very lonely. I'm reminded of myself. I've made that expression before. Maybe it's on my face right now. Feels like the image of such a lonely girl will stick in my mind forever. Every moment where I could have prevented this or solved the problem comes back to me. It makes me smile in a way without amusement. Hmm. You sure you're okay, sweetheart?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love you.
I
So
think.
yeah,
Mm,
go on.
don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and ring those bells. That's all I have for today. Thanks for listening. Bye bye, everyone.